The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Welcome to Crime and Forensics. I am your show host, Stephen David Lampley. Her name is synonymous with Hollywood stardom. You have seen her in the James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever alongside Sean Connery, and her many films and television shows have made her a household name. However, her biggest role may just be the pursuit of finding out the truth about what happened that night of Saturday, November 28th, 1981. The night her sister, Natalie Wood, came up missing and was later found deceased. I want to welcome Lana Wood to Crime and Forensics. Lana, it's truly an honor to have you with us, and thank you for taking time out of your day to talk with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm delighted to be able to talk to you.
I would like to, if it's okay with you, let's just go ahead and get into this.
Absolutely.
Now, let's just do a little background so our listeners know a little bit about, the events that led up to that night. What was the relationship? What was the relationship like between Natalie and Robert at that time?
Natalie was working. It was a time of change. Oh dear, sorry about that dog. It was a time of change for her because she was concerned about getting roles and working and finding the right roles to do. She was prepared to go back into acting, more or less full time, certainly with a complete heart, because she felt that she had already established her kids and everything was sort of going correctly so that she could continue with her career again. And as far as how RJ felt about that, I don't know. You can probably answer me just as well as I could answer you, the male ego. It's tough when you've got one person that's more successful than another, and especially if it's male, female. That always enters into it. It's just something that is, I think, just a part of how things have been ingrained as to women's roles. So I don't think he was terrifically happy. So it wasn't that their relationship was bad at that time, but it was undergoing a change.
No, they were married before, right? And that they were married and then divorced, and then they got back together, right?
Did it again? Yep. Yes, indeed.
Now, Natalie's demeanor prior to that night, was she happy? Did she seem to be stressed? How was she acting?
No, not at all. Was she happy? Well, she was working. So she was in the middle of doing a film with Christopher Walken. And so she was happy about that. They had just taken the holiday off. So the film was not completed, but they had stopped filming for the holidays. So she was fine. She was feeling good and very positive about what the future would bring. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she was in good spirits.
Now, she was afraid of the water. Was going out on the boat something that was common for her?
Well, it was RJ's love. He loved going out on the boat. So, she tried to make it as homey as possible. Mm-hmm. And Natalie was one and come to terms with what really troubled her. So, she would go. I'm sure she enjoyed it to an extent and liked making it, a little home for her. But it was really RJ's love. But Natalie was more than afraid of water. I mean, she was terrified.
Really?
Terrified. Yeah. And to quote her on several shows, and obviously, we had talked about it, and my mom and Natalie, she thought she was terrified of dark water because my mom when she was growing up, she was raised in China. She was born in Russia, raised in China. And she had her fortune told. And this woman actually told her that she would have a child who would be world famous and beloved by all, but that she saw a death by drowning in deep, dark water.
Wow. So
my mom was kind enough to share that information with us. So it was something that always stayed with Natalie. It didn't with me because I don't know, I just, I didn't really believe things like that.
Yeah.
So, but it troubled Natalie always, and she was absolutely terrible. She didn't know how to swim. She wouldn't swim in her own pool. She wouldn't go in it.
Wow.
Yeah, she just didn't like water. No, she didn't know how to swim at all.
Now, that night that they were on, I believe the boat's name was the Splendor, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The night that they were on the boat, now, who was she with that night on the boat?
On the boat, she had invited her co-star, Christopher Walken, and the man who sort of ran the boat and kept things shipshape. They, gave him the title of captain, Dennis DeVerne, and RJ. That was it. Now,
I read the statement, or I read several statements by Christopher Walken, who said that, and the boat's captain as well, the skipper, whatever his title. You said
yeah.
And both of them said that there was a fight or an argument between Robert and Natalie. Do you what do you know about that?
There were two. There were two. The night before, Natalie got so upset she wanted to leave the boat. She wanted to come home. Mm-hmm. And what she did is she asked Dennis to stay with her in a motel on the island. She didn't even spend the night on the boat. She didn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to come home. And then lo and behold, in the morning, she changed her mind and said, I'm going to, go see if I can't make these things better. So she didn't leave. She went back, and that was the night that, a big fight ensued. Evidently started when they were out to dinner on the island, and carried it over to the boat. Excuse me. It was not a happy evening.
Okay, that's sort of what I picked up on the parts that I read.
RJ had become so furious that he became violent and picked up a wine bottle and literally dramatically broke a wine bottle and, was threatening with the wine bottle. So it was bad stuff going on, very, very bad stuff. Christopher at that time said, he was not going to get in the middle of any of this, and he left. He went to his bunk, his room, and went to bed. And Natalie said she'd had enough, and she stormed off to their cabin and got ready for bed. Took a sleeping pill, got ready for bed, was in her nightgown, and RJ stormed in after drinking more, stormed in and continued the fight. And what's odd is people say, oh, well, he couldn't, he didn't. It's odd because I don't know if you've ever seen the layout of the Splendor, but the bedroom doors open directly onto the rear deck. Mm-hmm. It's not a step up. It's not a climb around. They open directly to the back of the boat. According to Dennis, which I certainly believe, particularly now that they have a new coroner with better methods and with a little bit more thorough in going over things, that, two people were fighting violently first in the room to the point where Dennis went to the door and knocked on it and said, RJ, what's going on? Can I do anything? And RJ basically told him, to mind his own business and shut the door. But he said that he appeared very disheveled, very, angry, and just not in control at all. Mm-hmm. So then the fight was carried out onto the back of the boat, and at this point, Dennis started to walk around to go to the back of the boat because he heard them continue to fight. He turned up the music because RJ was very concerned about anybody hearing anything, as was Dennis. It was a privacy. And so Dennis turned up the music, walked to the back of the boat, and only saw RJ standing there and said, "Where's Natalie?" And RJ answered him, "She's gone." And Dennis, what do you mean she's gone? She's gone overboard. Let's turn on the lights. And RJ would not let him turn on the lights or call the Coast Guard or anything. They continued drinking. So now you've got, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There are two people on the back of the boat, and suddenly there's just one. And then RJ said some very stupid and cruel things that couldn't be farther from the truth of who Natalie is, which angers me equally. He said, she probably went off to a party because she was that kind of woman. What? In a nightgown with wool socks? And her face scrubbed clean? No, I don't think so. Natalie never went to the mailbox unless she was fully dressed. No. Seriously, obviously she didn't go pick up her own mail, but you know what I'm saying. She never went anywhere. Natalie was, a star. Mm-hmm. And she just, she was always concerned about how people would perceive her, how she looked, and what she needed to do, and was very, very fan conscious and conscious of her reputation. So it makes no sense to me that there were two people standing on the back of a boat and suddenly one's gone. Well, so explain that.
It sounds like he was, from what you're saying, Lana, it sounds like he was pretty calm about it all.
I don't know. I don't know, but he certainly didn't seem concerned.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. He wasn't concerned at all. He said, no, don't do that. Don't let anybody else know. No, don't call.
Exactly.
Don't turn on the lights. Nothing,
Well, now, did he normally have, does he normally have a temper? Is that something that was common, or was it rare?
That I wouldn't know, because that's what goes on behind closed doors.
Right.
That I don't know.
Okay.
I really can't answer that honestly, so I won't even try to.
Well, now, and you said a while ago that, now, it's my understanding that the ship's captain, at one point, initially at least, lied about the story, but then later changed his story?
Yes, he did lie. He did what RJ told him to do. RJ told him what to say, told Christopher what to say, said we've got to all be on the same page. This is it. This will, make it easier for everybody. And he literally told Dennis what to say, and Dennis went along with it. And Christopher just clammed up. Christopher didn't speak for a very long time, and they had a very brief meeting after Natalie's body was found. Another thing that always really bothered me is, why didn't RJ go to be next to his wife when her body was found? Why didn't he go? Why didn't why didn't he identify her? No, he sent Dennis. He left in a helicopter. They left. He and Christopher left to go back home and just left her there. Horrible. You think it's interesting? It makes me crazy. I just think it's bizarre. I'm not comparing Natalie to a pet, but I had a cat that was hit by a car and his body was in the street. They couldn't get me away from him. And he was my cat. It just doesn't make any sense to me. People just don't do that. You go to be by your wife's side.
Yeah, it's almost like a distancing effort there, it seems to me.
Immediately, yeah.
Now, I know that they've changed. We have a new coroner, a new medical examiner in the case, and there was a new 10-page addendum to that autopsy. And it indicates that there are some changes based on the new coroner and some new information. Yes. Can you tell us what that is?
Well, they said that the bruising all over her body was that of someone who's being abused, not of someone bumping up against a rubber dinghy. Mm-hmm. It just didn't follow. She also had a bruise mark in the center of her throat. She had too many bruises. I mean, it was something ridiculous. It was all over. Indicative of a fight. You know, yeah. Natalie was tiny. She was teeny tiny. She was 5'2" and, you know, weighed 105 pounds. And it's obvious. Also, the coroner also said that she had a full bladder, and that what they found, the seawater that was found in her lungs was actually sea foam and, you know, a small amount of water, but that she was quite possibly either unconscious or she was dead when she went into the water.
Interesting.
And then you had the Gucci who went back and said, yes, he knows he didn't do, you know, shades of gray. He just did black or white, and it was big celebrities involved, and he did a very, quick autopsy, minimal amount of anything, and said, yeah, he did that. He didn't do a thorough. He didn't take, look at her nail clippings. They didn't do a rape kit. There are lots of things that just weren't done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now, did she have, according to part of what I read, of course you can read anything, she had an abrasion. She had an abrasion on her left cheek. Is that correct? Is that based on what you know?
Yeah, she also had one on her forehead, and she was bruised. Her arms were bruised. Her legs were bruised. And as I say, right.
We at Wondery, creators of Dr. Death, Scamfluencers, and Over My Dead Body, go deeper into complex true crime stories to give you an inside look at the facts. And now we're launching the ultimate true crime fan destination, Exhibit C. It's truly criminal. Wondery's Exhibit C gives you the detective's lens of all of the evidence, taking you step by step through the twists and turns of each true crime case. Join the Exhibit C online community to access exclusive show merchandise, member-only content, and to hear directly from top criminal and social justice experts, witnesses, and investigators as they take us beyond the evidence and into the case file. Join now by following Wondery Exhibit C on Facebook, or find us on the web at WonderyExhibitC.com and listen to true crime podcasts on Wondery and Amazon Music. Exhibit C. It's truly criminal.
In the center of her throat was also bruised. And just a round bruise that were all fresh bruises.
I've noticed that Robert Wagner has now been named as a person of interest in the case,
yes.
back in February. And that sort of changes things, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It changes a great many things. And Lieutenant Karina from the Sheriff's Department has held conferences and asked if there's anybody who saw anything at all, not anything, particularly, I saw her being hit or anything, any little piece of anything that they saw. Them walking out of the restaurant, them, whatever, to please come forward. That they have two new witnesses that are unwilling witnesses. They didn't come forward then, and they didn't come forward this time, but were actually trapped into making statements, and they told the truth. And he wants anything and everything that anybody could have possibly seen, even if it seems irrelevant to that person. It may not be.
Well, that's true. And I spent 21 years myself as a as a police officer and undercover SVU detective for a period of time. And many, many times, Lana, you're correct, many, many times the smallest piece of information that seems insignificant to the public can break a case flat wide open.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say this at the end of the show, and I'm going to say it now because we're here talking about it.
Right.
We're broadcast in Los Angeles, and any of our listeners or anywhere, if you have any information, if you saw anything, please notify law enforcement and let them know. You may have the tiniest tidbit of information that can solve this case. So please step forward. Please do. I also understand that they've changed the cause of death on that autopsy to, I believe it's drowning and other undetermined factors. Now, that's interesting.
That's correct. Yes. Well, because it wasn't simply drowning. As I said, the new coroner, and I apologize, I cannot pronounce his name to save my life, said that she was either unconscious or was already dead when she hit the water. That things just don't add up. So, and the bruising, it was, it was too haphazard everywhere, too many, and not consistent with, as I said, bumping up against a rubber dinghy.
Sure.
It's just, the whole story just never made sense to me. But it's so ugly. Natalie was my lifeline. It was the two of us. It's something that will never be made right for me. And her life was taken from her.
Right.
And she was lied about. And it makes me crazy. It really is just so amazingly upsetting. I've been begging every time I get a chance to do an interview or someone asks me for my opinion. I've been begging RJ to just talk to the police. He's never spoken to them again, other than that night. He has refused to speak with them. But even the two detectives from homicide that were on the case, that still are, went to Colorado to his home there. And they were not allowed in. They gave them trouble even going into that area. And he's refused to speak to them. Every time they've tried, he has refused.
Wow.
And then his attorney comes out and says, Robert Wagner has always been cooperative with the police. No, he has not. He spoke with them then on the day that it all came out, but he has not spoken to them since. So, in my feeling, if you truly have nothing to hide, why wouldn't you want to speak to them? Why wouldn't you want to do everything you possibly could, even if it's simply clearing your own name?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Where is the love? Where was the caring? Where was the concern? Where it wasn't there, which really upsetting. So, a lot of things. There's so much going on in this case. It's scary.
And something else that I found interesting that's different from the first autopsy report was the statement that how Natalie ended up in the water was, quote, not clearly established, unquote.
Right.
When
right.
That really stood out to me. That statement really stood out.
Right.
So, now where before there was an accidental drowning, now they have realized that there's something else to this. The fact that she may not have just slipped into the water or slipped into the dinghy, that there may be extenuating circumstances. And to me, that statement was very significant in that report.
Yes, it is. It is significant. Absolutely. Well, we have better methods now. We have more technology now. We have, people that are doing their job and not simply saying, okay, yes, right, okay, that's good, cross it off the books, on to the next, as Noguchi did. Yeah, it's just, there's so much to say. I don't even know where to start. But, no, that is significant. And also, the police, the detectives, have been looking into this for years now. The case wasn't just reopened. It's been open for a while now. And they are thorough, and they are, it's actually calling them idiots if they're not doing their job. They are doing their job. They're wonderful.
Well, having been a police officer myself, sometimes it takes a long time. You can only act on the information that you have, and with each new piece of information you get, you literally go back and look at the whole case over again. And so it does take time sometimes, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it takes time longer in some than others. So we will keep the faith that this case will be solved very soon, especially with the new witnesses and hopefully some new statements and some new evidence.
Right.
Lana, what can you tell us? What are you allowed to tell us? Where is this case currently? What are we looking at?
They're still looking for more information. They still have not revealed who the two new witnesses are, and what the new information is. But the information that they have, according to the detectives who used to come to my house to keep me apprised of what was happening and what was being uncovered, they said they know that they have enough right now to arrest Robert Wagner, and that it was the district attorney who said, no, needs more. So it's actually the district attorney who didn't take this farther.
Okay. So the police feel like they have a solid case then? Yes,
they do. Absolutely.
All right. What are your thoughts about Robert Wagner?
I just wish he would be a man. I wish he would come out and tell the truth. I'm not in judgment of him. I was not there. I don't know what happened, but I know that, these things are possible for anybody. It's just crossing that fine line where I don't feel it was premeditated. I don't think it was planned, and all that nonsense that, comes out is, I don't know what, it's just ludicrous. But the facts is all I've ever dealt with, and I can't believe that he wouldn't want to tell the truth. And to blame, what he does is he blames Dennis, DeBurn, anybody he possibly can. I've come under fire. I haven't done anything. I'm not dealing, nor have I ever, just so that you know, I'm not dealing with suppositions. I know my sister better than I know myself, because I could view her in a different way than I view myself.
Sure.
She would not do any of the things that he first claimed she did. I don't know. It's possible for, as I say, anybody at any time to just cross that line, and something like this happens. As I say, I'm not judging him. I want truth and honesty. And he needs to stop making other people the fall guy. I'm just saying this for money. Are you paying me a great deal of money to talk to you? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. They've waged war. I feel for her children. I really do. And there again, as I started to get into earlier, it's so ugly to accept that this is what happened, that you don't want to. I had my head in the sand for years. It was always niggling at me, but I never said anything. I never proceeded with anything. I just, knew that Natalie wouldn't behave in the manner that he said, and that he was extremely jealous. He was accusing Christopher Walken of having an affair with her. I just wish he would tell the truth. I really do. And then what happens after that is, not up to me or anybody else. And I'm sorry that, this will hurt her kids even more. But I think losing their mother was probably the worst pain.
Sure.
I think nothing of RJ, to tell you the truth. I don't feel an anger. I don't feel any love, but I never have. So, he was not my pal. I was in their house. I was with Natalie to be with Natalie because the two of us had planned, because the two of us were doing something or going somewhere or whatever it was. So when she announced to the family at an impromptu called dinner that she was remarrying RJ, the minute I could, I grabbed her and said, "What on earth are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And she said, "Because sometimes it's better to be with the devil you know than the devil you don't." And I said, "Wow, I don't accept that. I would have accepted, I love him still, I always have, anything, but sometimes it's better to be with the devil you know."
Wow.
That to me is not a reason that I would accept. I just would not accept it. Anyway, that was the second time around. Obviously, the first time around I was a kid. And had no feelings. It's odd, though, in looking back, which I've had to do, is their first marriage when Natalie was, barely over 18, and I was a little kid. I was sobbing so loudly during the ceremony that Natalie came over and put her arms around me and said, "What is wrong?" And I said, "I just lost you." And I did.
Yeah.
It's odd, those things, those things that can happen.
Sure. But, well,
and
you hit on that just a second ago, and I want to sort of expound on that a little bit. Things in life happen. We don't intend for them to happen. They happen at the spur of the moment, and we, after it happens, we regret what we've done.
Sure.
And I sort of, maybe, of course, I'm far removed from this case, a lot farther than you are, because you were Natalie's sister and very close to everybody. But as you said a while ago, I can't help but maybe think that maybe the tempers flared and they flared too much, perhaps.
Right.
And maybe something happened that shouldn't,
Dennis was a witness to their fight. He said it sounded like furniture was being broken in the room. There was it was bad. That's why he went to their door and said, knocked on the door and said, "What's going on?" And it was obvious that the loud voices, which were heard by other people as well on the back of the boat, there was a fight going on, bad one. So, you can't discount that.
Yeah,
but as you were saying, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if indeed it was, as we call it, in the heat of passion and tempers were flaring, people make mistakes. People make grave mistakes sometimes. Yes. And that's life. But if that's the case, it's just a simple matter of saying, "Hey, okay, that's what happened. My temper got out of hand." Just own up to it. Yeah. Exactly. So, but anyway, now our time is almost out, and let me tell you something. This show is open to you anytime you want to come back on.
Oh, well, bless your heart. Thank you.
Let me know.
What? I'll keep you posted. Yes. If anything changes or I get any new information, absolutely, I will contact you without question.
You contact me, and we will get you back on. Post haste. We'll get you back on quickly.
Lovely.
And you're
Thank
welcome
you.
here anytime, because I would like to see this case, the truth and the facts come out, and let's put this to rest for you and her daughters and the family.
Everybody. Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. It's a pleasure to have you on, and you have a great day, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
All right, I want to take just a moment as we ended our interview with Lana, and again reiterate to those of you who are listening to Crime and Forensics that sometimes just the smallest piece of information literally can break a case wide open and help solve it. A lot of people say, well, this is just tiny information, and what I know really doesn't amount to anything. Please, 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 let law enforcement decide if what you know is important. Maybe it's not, but maybe it's the very little tidbit that they need to connect the dots to close this case. So I plead with you, if there's anything that you know, anything that you saw, or anything related to this case that you have that you've not notified law enforcement, please do so. Please go right now and notify them and tell them what you saw or what you know or what you heard. It may be the very piece of information they need to break this case. Thank you.
To find out more about our show, guests, or to listen to past shows from our archive, please go to www.houseofmysteryradio.com.
The mission has been completed.
The end! By George, he's got it! It is the end! I'll see you.
If you're lying to me, I'll be back.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.